How many passing touchdowns for the Buffalo quarterback this year? Diana.
All right, Greeny, I'm going to go with 33. We know he went from 10 to 20 to 37 last year. He was incredible. They relied so much on his arm. But here's what I know about Brian Daboll. They know they got to have a more balanced attack. They need to run the ball more. So I think because of that, his passing touchdowns are going to decrease. But I still think Josh Allen's going to have an incredible season. 33.
Damien Woody, you're next. How many total touchdowns, passing and rushing, for Lamar Jackson?
Greeny, I think it's going to be big. I'm going with 45. I think Lamar Jackson hears all the whispers of everyone questioning whether he should be the guy. I think some of the weapons that they brought in, Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman, I think this is going to be a huge year for Lamar Jackson.
Make sure Barry and Yates are listening. D. Wood says 45 touchdowns for Lamar Jackson. Finally, Mike T. Baker Mayfield, high expectations in Cleveland. How many wins for Baker this year?
And that's going to be second place to Damien Woody's aforementioned Baltimore Ravens winning the AFC North. I know everyone's very bullish on the Browns. I like the Browns. I don't love the Browns. I think a solid 10-7 season is where they're going to wind up.
Okay, so you say 10-7. You say you like but don't love them, which is interesting because NFL.com ranked the most complete teams, the best rosters. And they listed, you see them in the order there, the Bills at 5, the Chargers at 4, the Chiefs at 3, the Bucks at 2, and the Cleveland Browns at number 1. So, Diana, you made an excellent point as we had our meeting this morning about the reason that one person might say the Browns have the best team top to bottom in the NFL, and yet others might not have that much confidence in them. What is that reason?
Yeah, the factor seems to be Baker Mayfield and trying to figure out what he is, right? So we look back at his season last year. He had just 8 interceptions. The season before, 21. Let's even look at last season, the first half of it compared to the second half. He was unbelievable. I remember having conversations with defensive coordinators about Baker's accuracy, his athleticism, his decision-making, all the things you want to hear about a quarterback who can help lead you to the playoffs. But is this the real Baker? And here's the advantage that I think Baker Mayfield has going for him this year. He's got a head coach in Kevin Stefanski. He's going to be in his system now for the second year in a row. We know Stefanski's offense is a very similar to the Gary Kubiak, Shanahan style type of offense, right? So now he's going to be in his second year with Stefanski doing this. And when you look at other quarterbacks that have been in that same system, they always take a step forward in their second year in that system. So this could help. We know he's got all the players around him. We know this defense is going to be electric. This is really going to come down, and it's really put up or shut up for Baker Mayfield. Can Baker take that next step?
That is the question. You know, D. Wood, I was on a radio show in Cleveland yesterday. They're thinking Super Bowl thoughts. And I think what everyone has said so far is right. I think Mike T's little bit of skepticism. I see it in his face there. It's reasonable. Diana makes the good point. It's about the quarterback. Should they be thinking Super Bowl thoughts in Cleveland? D. Wood.
Listen, I think they do. They should have Super Bowl aspirations. But here's the thing: when you're talking about teams in that upper echelon, usually the difference comes to the quarterback position. And so the question remains: if it comes down to Baker Mayfield and some of these other quarterbacks, can he go toe to toe? Can he go toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes? That's what it's going to come down to. I always said, if you want to separate yourself, especially deep in the season, you got to have moments. We know they got a great offensive line. We know that they got probably the best duo tandem running backs in the league. Odell Beckham is coming back. But in order for the Cleveland Browns to take that next step, Baker Mayfield is going to have moments against some of the other elite quarterbacks in the AFC. That remains to be seen.
And so that's the deal here, Mike T. To your point, when NFL.com put this top 5 together, 4 of them are AFC teams. And the quarterbacks are Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and Baker Mayfield. Is that where your skepticism comes from, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say Ryan Tannehill is definitely above Baker Mayfield as well. And as Diana alluded to, when you look at Kevin Stefanski's track record, they won in Minnesota with Case Keenum. They won with Kirk Cousins. Baker Mayfield is very much a replaceable part. He's had 1 productive season out of 3. That is not greatness at the quarterback position. So at best, he is the 5th best quarterback in the AFC. The other point that bears noting is injuries can be hugely consequential for the Cleveland Browns. Odell Beckham, Jadeveon Clowney, they have to play in 17 games for this team to be productive. And in the second round, Cleveland drafted Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame. If he could stay healthy, he could be an impact player. But those three players need to play 17 games to give Cleveland a chance to go deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, to be clear, on Owusu-Koramoah, injury concerns or health concerns really were the question. That's a guy who would have been a top 15 pick in this draft, and he fell to the second round for that reason. If healthy, he could be a major impact player. We'll see. Meanwhile, let's run the bases through some of the baseball from last night. The National star Kyle Schwarber continues his incredible run, homering twice, becoming the first player in Major League history to hit 15 home runs in a 17-day span. Washington beat the Mets by a score of 8-4. Meanwhile, to L.A., Dodgers star Mookie Betts and Max Muncy hitting back-to-back home runs to begin the first inning. From there, Trevor Bauer would allow just 2 and strike out 8. Dodgers held on to beat San Francisco 3-2 in a matchup of the top two teams in that very good division. Elsewhere, the Brewers, their 6th straight win, their biggest inning in a long time. Willie Adams and Keston Hiura each hitting 3-run homers during a 10-run 8th that lifted Milwaukee to a 14-4 win over the Cubs. Meanwhile, did you see this? Back to the Euros, Croatia, Spain. We showed you the crazy finish, but did you see this crazy moment? Take a look. Just watch as we're going to have a pass back here to the goalie who just flat whiffs. I mean, he just misses. The ball barely grazes. That's an own goal. Croatia would take a 1-0 lead. Spain would win by a score of 5-3, but that is not the best moment that we've ever seen. D. Wood, anything? We'll talk later. For a star, Paul George hasn't always shined brightly.